So welcome to the HTML5 Builder product address here at CodeRage 7. My name is Sarina DuPont, and I'm the product manager for HTML5 Builder. And with me today, here's also Jose Leon, our director of engineering. We wanted to take this time during the product address to let you know more about HTML5 Builder, some of the key features and functionalities that we have implemented in this release, how it's relevant to you in regards to mobile application and web application development, and also to explain a little bit more about how HTML5 Builder is similar to your workflow that you have today with Delphi as well, and how it's really easy for Delphi developers to get started with HTML5 Builder. So what is HTML5 Builder? It's our RAD development environment for web and mobile applications. So in HTML5 Builder, you can choose from 4 key project types. And what that means is you can create web server and client server applications, and you can also create client mobile and server mobile applications. So those are applications where you're either using JavaScript, CSS3, and HTML5 on the client side, or PHP for your backend. You can create client-only applications that you deploy to the App Store, for example, or you could create a server mobile application that uses your HTML, JavaScript, CSS for your markup and for your user interface presentation, and then you could connect it to a PHP backend, and you can deploy those to the app stores. In addition, you can also create full web applications as well. We have database connectivity built into many of the popular databases. We also support Data Snap as well. And this is all done within one visual framework. So it's a visual RAD development environment. Similar to what you're used to with Delphi, we have drag and drop components. We have wizards built in to allow you to deploy your applications, compile your applications, deploy them, and generate the files necessary to deploy your applications to the app stores. Now, in regards to the familiar workflow for Delphi developers, as I mentioned, it has a visual RAD development environment. And just looking at the 2 screenshots here that I've included in the presentation is on the left, you can see HTML5 Builder, and the right, you can see RAD Studio. Now, while the workflows are somewhat different in HTML5 Builder, one of the key things that we've done with this product is we've made it really easy to use in the sense that we've removed a lot of the tool palettes and file menus, etc., and changed this into different workflows. So we have a home view, a code view, a design view, etc. And the only components and tools palettes that are actually available to you are the ones that are applicable to your current workflow. However, we have drag and drop components just like you have in Delphi. So the similar easy-to-use workflow that you have in Delphi, by starting out with a new form, we have an HTML5 Builder as well. Drag and drop components. In Delphi, you have user interface styling through FireMonkey. In HTML5 Builder, you have user interface styling with CSS3 via a theme designer. We also have multi-tier database application development. Just like you have in Delphi, you can connect to a Data Snap server. You can connect your applications to multiple databases. So we have all those types of features that you're familiar with in Delphi in HTML5 Builder. And then, of course, also your developer productivity features. So we have Code Insight. We have Code Insight for jQuery, JavaScript, HTML5, PHP, etc. So that makes it really easy to get started, including code completion. And then also being able to develop from multiple platforms with one code base. So on the Delphi side with FireMonkey, you can develop for Windows and Mac. And on the HTML5 Builder site, you can take all the web technologies, and that's JavaScript, HTML5, CSS3, and PHP, and you can develop a mobile application with one code base, and then via a built-in wizard, you can actually generate the files you need to compile that into an application that you can run on iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and Windows Phone, or also deploy to the App Store.
Yeah, basically just to highlight that HTML5 Builder is the shortest path for Delphi developers to jump into web technologies. And with this release, we have made a big change in the sense that you don't need any more PHP in order to create web apps, because we are focusing more and more on client technologies. So it's quite easy to use for any existing Delphi developer.
Now, some of the HTML5 Builder key features that we want to highlight here. Again, it's visual development for web, iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and Windows Phone. And we'll be showing some of that tomorrow in the session as well. We'll be doing a kind of hands-on session on how to create both client-side mobile applications and then also client-side mobile applications that connect up to a PHP backend and a database as well. Now, for your visual development, you can drag and drop your components on the form. You can choose from built-in styles. There are 5 default built-in styles you can choose from. You can also visually design your user interfaces via a CSS3 built-in theme designer that makes it really easy to get started. You can develop with HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, and PHP. HTML5 being the latest version of HTML. It's been talked about heavily in the news. It's something that's been really adopted across the board by many companies. It's a really good way of being able to build visually stunning, dynamic applications for the web. CSS3, of course, being the latest iteration of the cascading style sheet language. So we have a lot of different functionality that we're able to leverage in HTML5 Builder. Also, we've included animation property editors. So things like being able to rotate a button on click or zoom in and out of a control on click. Those are all built in via visual property editors that then generate the code for you automatically, which makes it really easy to get started. And hundreds of visual components, so those range from your mobile interface components like switch controls, toolbars, buttons, panels, etc., to also your hardware access. So that includes camera support, location sensor support, etc. Then we also have HTML5 specific components, for example, media component, and that allows you to render your audio and video clips in the browser, which is something that's supported now by all the popular and leading browsers. So all the latest versions of Firefox, Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, also mobile Safari, are HTML5 capable, and that means that they can render a video, for example, in the browser without needing a plugin like Flash. And so to just kind of recap, it provides HTML5 Builder provides powerful front-end HTML5 development, and it's coupled with an advanced PHP backend that you can also use for your application development. It's not just for mobile applications, you can also do full-fledged web applications as well. Jose, anything to add?
Yes, Sarina, for example, one of my, well, basically my favorite feature is about mobile development, in the sense that if you or anyone that is listening tries to do the same by hand, that is to create visually an interface for a mobile application and get the native app into the device, you will realize how hard it is. So what we have done is to ease the path to anyone in order to create those applications, and even we connect to a build service in the cloud to get the application compiled. So there is no need that you get an SDK installed on your machine in order to build those mobile apps. So I think we have done a very good job on this release. It's very packed with a lot of new features, and especially we have paid a lot of attention to the mobile.
Yes, HTML5 Builder is definitely a way to get to mobile now and quickly. As Jose mentioned, we have all the different UI components, makes it really easy to get started. You can build toolbars, you can have a tab control with different designs that are all built in, icons, etc. You can also use your own graphics. And then, as Jose mentioned, there are two different ways that you can actually deploy your application, your mobile application. There's a wizard that you can generate the files with that you can then take over to, for example, your Mac and then compile an Xcode. It generates an Xcode project for you. Or you could also leverage the built-in PhoneGap build service, which once you sign up for an account, you actually just enter user credentials, and it will package up, zip up your application files, and then send them up to a server to basically package up and create the application file, the application bundle for you, which is really nice because you don't have to install the SDKs on your machines if you don't want to. So you basically have two different ways of compiling your application. You can compile it locally by installing the SDKs on your machine, or you can do that in the cloud as well. Now, to look at some of the web statistics, I found those to be really interesting, looking at what's going on in the world today and how many people are connected. There are over 7 billion people on the planet today. 1 out of 3 surfs the web, and that's nearly 2.3 billion people. So it's really a large audience of people that are looking for different web services, web applications. As we all know, people are more connected now than they've ever been. And the same as what I found very interesting is also talking about mobile statistics. There are over 15 billion apps that have been downloaded on Android and over 25 billion apps downloaded on iOS. So that really shows the market opportunity for being able to develop an application and getting it out there to all these potential customers. Whether you currently have a web application or a website that you want to have a companion app that you develop, you have customers who want to be able to log in from their phone easily. and you want to have an application that's either packaged up as an app that they can access through the App Store, or you want to create an M.dot application, which is a mobile optimized application for mobile devices, that's all possible with HTML5 Builder. And just looking at the market opportunity a little bit further, some of the stats that I've seen are that Android developers have earned over $300 million and iOS developers have earned over $4 billion. So it's really a large market opportunity for people to be able to jump into and get started now. And with HTML5 Builder, we've really focused heavily with this release, as Jose mentioned, on the client-side application development of mobile applications and making it really easy for people to get started and get something out now. Now, talking a little bit more about HTML5 Builder mobile apps. Now, those are designed using your standard web technologies. It's a very similar workflow as developing a website or a web application. And as you can actually see in the screenshot here to the left, this is an application that I actually am running on my phone. It's something that Jose worked on. And there are a couple different ways that you can build the applications. One of the things I mentioned was an M.dot application, which is a mobile optimized application. And on iOS, for example, you can browse to your server. You can browse to an M.dot Embarcadero.com or M.yourwebsite.com. And then you can build your mobile optimized website, and then people could add it to their home screen as basically a shortcut to access later on, or you could package that up as an actual application that they could access through the App Store. They're developed and used just by the customer, just like any other application. So whether they're using your mobile app that you develop with HTML5 Builder or they're using another app in the App Store, the workflows and usability are very similar. It's really easy for people to use the applications. And again, you can target 4 platforms. And I think that's really a key message and a key factor in why you should consider getting started with HTML5 Builder. It's not just easy to use, but it also gives you the ability to quickly target 4 platforms from one code base, which is really, if you're looking at what's available in the market today, that's really a key differentiator in the product in the sense that it's really powerful. It's really easy to get started. We have all the database connectivity built in if you're building enterprise mobile applications, or if you're just building a client-side only mobile application, we make it really easy to get started and then target all those 4 platforms. And again, you can leverage the latest in HTML with HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, and PHP as well.
For me as a developer, I think that the most important thing is to have a single code base. That is, so I can just reuse my code on different platforms. And that is key. I think it's a key factor to the success of the applications I develop for my customers. So it's something that initially HTML will be seen as a non-native, but you should pay attention because the cross-platform capabilities you get by developing HTML5 is huge. So it's something very good you need to pay attention to.
Now, talking a little bit more about what we've done with HTML5 Builder. Now, some of you maybe have been familiar with RadPHP, which was a previous web development product that we had. Now, with HTML5 Builder, we've done a lot of work to make the UI really easy to use, and have created a workflow-optimized UI. And as you can see here in the screenshots, we basically give you different context-based menus. So we have a home screen, a code view, a design view, a history view, and a debug view. And then we let you get started with 4 key projects, and those are client mobile apps and server mobile app projects, and then client web app and server web app projects. But the key point here is that it's really easy to get started. So when you're creating a new application, only the components that you can use for that particular application type are shown. The menu items and tool palettes are only shown that are applicable to you. So basically the file menu is gone, and now if you're working on a component that has certain properties and certain other functionality, then your toolbar at the top updates with those buttons and those functions. So it makes it really easy to get started, and by having this workflow optimized UI that's context sensitive and based on what you're working on at that point in time. Again, it displays the tools and menus that are applicable to your current workflow. We've done a lot of work to make this tool really easy to get started, given that we understand that it's important for you to be able to get your mobile applications out to the market now, being able to leverage the one code base functionality, and we think that it's a really easy way to get started by being able to choose from key project types. There are also additional project types that aren't shown in the screenshots here for creating a visual interface using the theme designer, etc. But it's really a very powerful workflow optimized UI.
Yes, for example, just highlight that in an IDE like this, there are like 300 commands or so that you can actually use. And on traditional UIs, you are getting all those 300 commands at the same time on a screen, using drop-down menus and toolbars and things like that. So what we have done is to make it easy for anyone, any newcomer to the tool, and just show the commands that you can actually use depending on the context and what you are doing. So at the end, you end up with a very easy to use UI, and the workflow is very seamless to anyone using the tool.
Great, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about HTML5 and the HTML5 components that we've included in HTML5 Builder. So HTML5 is something I'm sure you've heard about in the news. It's heavily talked about. It gives a lot of key new functionalities and access actually in a browser to render graphics now through the canvas using JavaScript, to be able to access location data using the Geolocation API in the browser, and it's available through HTML5, and then also being able to render audio and video in the browser. And on top of that, being able to access your device's browser local storage for being able to build an application that doesn't necessarily have to connect to a backend database if you're only using a certain amount of storage. So local storage is a big functionality that's available in the browser. Most browsers range between 5 to 10 megabytes of local storage that are available, and it's a really good way of being able to build an application that needs some storage capabilities but doesn't have to be connected to a full-fledged database. Now, talking a little bit more about what we've done on the component side, we've created 3 key new components, the canvas component, geolocation component, and then the media component. Now, local storage is something that you actually access in code, and it's really simple to get started with that. We have some samples that you can access with HTML5 Builder specifically for local storage, which is something I wanted to mention in general. HTML5 Builder includes hundreds of different samples. They're installed in your user folder. So whether you have the full version, you bought the product, or you're using the trial, I really encourage you to look at the samples since they're a really good starting point. Now, talking a little bit more about the canvas. Now, the canvas is provides a drawing surface, and just in the past where you'd have to use images, etc., the canvas allows you to do a lot of things with JavaScript. So you can not just only draw and render 2D and 3D shapes, but you can also combine it with animations and effects to, for example, pixelate a video, do different overlays. It's a really powerful surface that you can write code against to get really nice graphics effects. And that also includes some fluid drawings and charts, etc. If you've used HTML5 Builder, you'll see that we have some components from Schema in there as well, the T-chart charting tools, and they also use the canvas components. So it's a really good surface for being able to render charts, graphics, shapes, etc. And it also doesn't require your end user of the product to be able to have Flash or other plugins installed to be able to render dynamic content in the browser and on their device.
Yes, regarding HTML5, I will highlight that sometimes the name is a bit confusing in the sense that by HTML you remember the text-based language, but HTML5 is a group of technologies that is JavaScript also, CSS3. So when we say HTML5, we mean about that group of technologies. And for example, the canvas, all the primitives you need to use to draw is JavaScript code. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Now, another feature in HTML5 that we want to talk about is the Geolocation API, and you can take advantage of that in HTML5 Builder with a drag and drop component. So we have a geolocation component that you can drop on your form, and then you can write some JavaScript events against that, but you can also choose from different settings. It's all built in via a component. So the big advantage here is that we give you a really good starting point to be able to leverage the geolocation API that's available in HTML5 in your web or mobile applications without having to write all the code from scratch. Now, you've probably seen that used in the web browser, whether you're going to Google and you're trying to find directions to a location. It will ask you, if you want to select a current location. That's an example of it using geolocation to determine where you're located. You may see that if you're using a live chat, maybe with tech support, where they want to provide localized support for whatever location you're in to be able to determine your location. You'll see a pop-up that says, do you want to share your location? And that's also something that you'll see in in mobile applications on the device used a lot as well, whether you're trying to find restaurants near your location, etc. So geolocation services and geolocation, access to geolocation data is really something that's heavily used in applications today. And it's something that we make really easy through the geolocation component.
Yes, for developers here, I will highlight that geolocation is an API that is transparent for you, in the sense that if you are using a device which has GPS, it's going to use it. But if not, if you are on a PC or any other device that doesn't have any GPS, we'll use the IP address in order to set up or to provide the location you are.
Now, talking a little bit more about audio and video. So I'm sure you all remember the days where you had to go, in order to view any video, and news video or anything, you had to use Flash. Well, that was always a problem, especially if you were on an iPhone, because you couldn't install Flash. And I've run into this myself many times in the past, want to watch a video on the news, or your iPad, etc., as David I is holding up. And HTML5 audio and video really makes it really easy to be able to provide videos that your customers can watch on all their HTML5 capable browsers, and also on devices like the HTML5 capable mobile Safari, etc. And there are new tags in HTML, an audio and video tag, that enable you to, by providing your video or audio clips in 2 different formats, making sure that there's a fallback method, and you can provide your video, for example, in MP4 or OGV format, and you just provide your video in 2 different formats to ensure that no matter what browser the user is using, no matter what HTML5 capable browser the user is using, you're able to render the video for them on their device. And that's really a big step forward, in the sense that you don't have to, the user doesn't have to install any plugins or anything else on their machine that may be out of date, etc. If they have an HTML5 capable browser, it will also render the native controls for you, which is something that we've done with HTML5 Builder's media component. You drop it on your form, you set your source, you can determine different sources. You can say, I want my home.mp4 and my home.ogv file. You can set whether you want it to automatically start or loop. You can also set whether or not you want it to display the browser controls. So that's something else that's really nice, that HTML5 capable browsers all have native controls built into the browser. So those are your play buttons, your pause buttons, your volume bars, your view in full screen mode, etc. They all look a little bit different on each browser. However, they're rendered natively in the browser, so you don't have to provide a player or plugin of some sort.
Yes, basically to reinforce what you have said, from a developer perspective, the audio and video support in HTML5 is something that web developers have been requesting for a long time. We have to use plugins in the past, so this is a big step forward for us, in the sense that we are unifying the way to show videos and to provide audio to our applications.
Now, talking a little bit more about local storage. Now, I mentioned previously that's included as part of HTML5. So there's a local storage API, and it enables you to develop your mobile and web apps leveraging the browser storage capabilities. So you may have a small application that only needs to store, maybe it's a diet application. You want to store what you've eaten on a certain day, or it's your exercise application and you want to store how many miles you ran that day. It's really an easy way of being able to leverage local storage instead of having to rely on a third-party database, in the case where you're really only having to store a certain amount of data, either in the browser on your desktop machine or on your device. And you can access up to 10 megabytes of space depending on the user's browser and the browser capabilities.
Well, nothing to add on this. It's very, very simple to use. It's like cookies, but stored in a different way, and provides you a way to store local information on devices. So, I mean, it's pretty handy.
Yes, and just to reiterate, we have a lot of different sample files that you can have a look at that get installed with the product on your public documents folder on the HTML5 Builder. We have examples for the components, so we leverage jQuery mobile for all the mobile user interface components that can be fully styled. We have examples for all of those in there. We have examples for the HTML5 components, how to connect your applications to database. So I'd really encourage you to have a look at the samples. Now, talking a bit more about CSS3 styling and animations. So CSS3, the latest version of the cascading style sheet, which has been used for many years as a way of being able to style your web applications, having a kind of a central place that you reference in your website or your web application your CSS files, so you don't have to go through and manually update all the settings and the styles, etc. on each web page. That's been really useful for web developers. Now, CSS3 introduces a lot of different new settings like rounded border styles, etc. And we are able to visually design your CSS3 styles and animations using property editors. So as you can see in this screenshot here, we actually, in this example, we started out with a rectangular button, and then we can choose from different button styles. We can adjust the width, we can set the radius, so you get these rounded corner buttons. You can choose from different colors, whether that's your hex code colors that you have already that you want to match to something you've created in Photoshop, for example, or you want to choose from some of the built-in colors. We provide that. And then in addition, we also provide the same type of an editor, but for animations. So via sliders, you can set a zoom level, for example, on a control. So you can set up your on-click events visually using that editor as well. So you can say, on button click, I want this animation to be triggered, and then you set up your animation to, for example, have the button fly in or rotate, etc. So it's a really powerful way of being able to leverage CSS3 styling and animation visually without having to write a lot of code.
Yes, before CSS3, well, developers had to use a lot of images and tricks in order to achieve professional interfaces, and also to animations on a browser were something like, hard to do. With CSS3 it's very, very easy, and what we have done is to pack all that functionality into visual property editors you can use, and there is no need for you to know the CSS3 code. And also at this moment there are different settings or languages between the browsers. There are like CSS extensions, and we are generating code that is valid for any major browser, so that is also safe for you.
Now, talk a little bit more about jQuery mobile UI theming. So if you're familiar with jQuery mobile, it's a really popular JavaScript framework that's used in a lot of mobile applications. And it's something that we're also leveraging in HTML5 Builder. So we have mobile UI controls, jQuery mobile UI controls, and those are sliders, buttons, switch controls, etc. that we've integrated into the IDE that you can use in HTML5 Builder via drag and drop. By default, you can style it using 5 built-in themes, and there are different themes from yellow to blue to kind of a black grayish theme. And you can apply them really easily by dropping a mobile theme component onto your form, assigning the theme that you want to use to that mobile theme component, and then associating each of the controls with that component, or your form with that component, the mobile theme component. Now, in addition, it's an easy process to be able to create your own mobile UI themes by using the built-in drag-and-drop theme designer. So what that allows you to do is you see a layout of all the different key controls that you're going to be using in styling, and you can choose from a lot of different colors. You can adjust the saturation, the lightness, choose your own color sets, etc. And then you drag and drop those colors onto the controls that you want to style, and then you save it out as a CSS file. And so it generates all the CSS for you automatically based on what you visually designed using the drag and drop color schemes. And then you can apply that CSS file to your mobile theme that's associated with your controls to then have whatever you've designed visually using the jQuery mobile UI theme roller, have that be applied to your mobile application.
Yes. For the UI of mobile applications, we are using jQuery 5, which is the framework that is most supported at this moment in the market. It's not the only one, but it's for example, it's supported by Adobe on Dreamweaver also. So in this case, what we have done is to make it easy to create a theme in a visual way. So simply by dragging and dropping colors, you can develop the CSS that actually is the theme itself, and then you can plug that CSS in the visual form designer and have different styles and themes like the ones shown in this screenshot.
Now, I also wanted to take the time to talk a little bit more about client web applications with live preview, because that's something that we've done that is really unique to us in the sense that you can leverage your built-in components that we provide in your web application. That's your buttons, your radio buttons, your checkboxes, your panels, etc., and then leverage them with either an HTML website that you code from scratch or an existing web template. Nowadays, there are a lot of web templates that you can get on the internet. You can purchase. There's some available for free. And maybe you're starting out with a new business or a new website, and you want to start out with something that's based on a template. You can load that template into HTML5 Builder, You get a split view, which shows you your code on the left and your live preview on the right. And then you also get the design view where you can drag and drop any of the components that are built into HTML5 Builder that you want to leverage, such as your buttons. You can visually style them using CSS3, and you can animate them, etc. And then, as you can see in this, as you can see in the screenshot, you can then leverage those components using Code Inside. And actually, as you type H5B, for example, in this case, it will give you a hint as to what components you have on a design view that you visually styled, and you can place them within your template and leverage them within your web application. So this gives you the ability to take an existing template, your existing code, and then leverage components. It's also really nice because you can leverage your UI components that we have built in. You can access database components, etc., all within a web application that you're building with this live preview. And it's really nice because you can start out from scratch and leverage our building components, so it's a big time saver, or you can start it with an existing template, and then you can take all the capabilities that we provide through our CSS3 animation editors and theme designers to be able to visually style and animate those components, set properties, event handlers, etc., and then leverage those components within your live preview. As part of that, you get a kind of a code inspector in JavaScript as well if you're in the live preview. So there's some JavaScript debugging of your code within the live preview as well that you can leverage.
Yes, the usual or traditional workflow when you develop a web application is that developers should be focused on writing the actual working code of the application, and then designers write the templates that make the UI. So this feature makes it easy for you as a developer to focus on your code, and then get the templates from the designers and integrate them into the application in a seamless way. If some modification is required on the templates, just ship the templates to the designers, and as long as they respect the tags, the H5B tags on the code, everything is going to be working in the same way. So, it's a very nice way to separate the view from the code and the model.
Another key feature that I wanted to talk about is HTML, JavaScript, and jQuery Code Inside. So this is something that's really helpful whether you're building your mobile applications or your web applications. And Code Inside, I'm sure you're familiar with in Delphi. This is a really similar approach in the fact that it offers code completion by displaying hints to you. So anything that's available in jQuery or JavaScript or HTML that you're working with as you're writing code will be shown to you as a possible element, for example, in HTML. And it's a really easy way to get started, especially if you're a new web application developer or a seasoned web application developer. Those are big time savers and developer productivity features.
Well, basically one of the things we have done in this release, and we are going to keep doing, is to improve the code writing skills. Even the tool is very visual. Of course, there is still a need for writing code, and we are going to do everything is possible in order to improve the productivity in code writing.
Great. I think this was our last slide. I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us. We'll be starting the Q&A session here shortly. Just kind of to recap what HTML5 Builder is all about, it makes it really easy to get to mobile applications, get your mobile applications to market now using one code base that you can leverage across your web as well as iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and Windows Phone. It has all the visual designers to lay out your mobile applications, drag and drop components, full database connectivity. And as Delphi developers, it makes it really easy to get started, as a lot of the workflows that you're familiar with today in Delphi are very similar in HTML5 Builder as well. So I think, David, we have some questions from the audience here.
Are there plans for support for Windows Phone 8? Only Windows Phone 7 is mentioned.
So today, and Jose can probably fill us in on some more details on that, but in regards to Windows Phone 7 versus Windows Phone 8, when you're selecting the Windows Phone support in the IDE, we actually don't specify the specific version for Windows. So I'm not aware of there being any dramatic differences in regards to targeting Windows Phone versus Windows Phone 7 versus Windows Phone 8. Jose, are you aware of any differences there?
No, that depends on the PhoneGap version we support on the IDE in order to build apps. So as long as PhoneGap supports Windows Phone 8, we will support it.
And also using the PhoneGap build service online, you can target more devices, including Windows Phone 8, correct?
Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
All right. What is the limit of data that HTML5 can work with? Can it display large CAD files, for instance?
Display what? Sorry?
Large
what?
CAD files. Large amounts of data, like in this case, he's talking about drawings, architectural drawings, electrical circuit design, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, the limit is on the browsers. I mean, we are leveraging HTML5 technology, and the amount of information you can show on a canvas at the same time is limited by the browser support. So there is anything on HTML5 Builder that prevents show more or less information.
Right. So if you have a biometric unit connected to your mobile, could HTML5 Builder then be used to gather the data from that biometric unit and upload the data to a server? For instance, a DataSnap server every hour or so, sampling period, and sometimes for periods of several weeks for monitoring purposes?
Yes, PhoneGap allows you to create PhoneGap plugins, which are basically extensions you can use on your JavaScript code. So you can access any SDK is installed on the device. So, for example, if that biometric unit comes with an SDK, it should be possible to connect that with PhoneGap applications, and in this case, with HTML5 Builder applications.
And you can talk to DataSnap servers using the DataSnap
right.
Connectivity as well. Okay.
We actually have some tutorials as well on how to work with DataSnap servers using HTML5 builders. So if you go to the docwiki at docwiki.embarcadero.com, there are some tutorials. I believe there's also been some tutorials that have recently been posted to EDN on this topic as well.
Can we use HTML5 Builder instead of Dreamweaver to build a small website?
Yes.
So when you upgrade to XE3, do you get HTML5 Builder for free?
Yes, that is a promotion we're doing right now. That's correct.
There you go. And also, I'm in Arena session will show C++ Builder DataSnap working with HTML5 Builder in a later CodeRage 7 session as well. Thank you very much.
Yes, that's great. That's a great point. Thank you. And we do have, I believe Al has posted an article on how to work with DataSnap servers in HTML5 Builder, and I think that's been posted to EDN.
Are there any plans for supporting the latest version of PhoneGap and specifically iOS 6?
So today we support, what we've tested and officially verified is that HTML5 Builder works with PhoneGap 1.81, and PhoneGap gets updated quite frequently. That being said, I'm not aware of any specific differences. Now, what I could say is that there could be a scenario where maybe in PhoneGap they make additional capabilities available that might not be included in 1.81. That being said, I've deployed many apps to iOS 6 using HTML5 Builder, and you should be able to just select iOS 5.1 in the IDE and shouldn't have any issues with that. Jose, anything to add?
No, I think your answer is okay.
And actually, that's typically what happens with when you write native applications as well. In Delphi or in Xcode even, you pick a minimum target that you're going to target, say, for instance, 4.2 or 5.1, typically actually 4.2, so that you will run on as many devices as possible. And that, of course, includes anything up. So, are SQLite drivers available from HTML5 Builder so you can use SQLite?
When you use the MDB component, it's a component we provide with the product. You are actually accessing SQLite database on the device. So basically, most browsers on mobile devices use SQLite on the background in order to provide that database support. So there is no need for such drivers in itself.
So no need for drivers. It's supported anyway. All right. Then there's actually a question for which is FireMonkey related. It says if in FireMonkey animations, if they're interrupted by mouse events, like if you move a trackbar or move your window, is there a fix for that? I was going to test it out myself. The only thing I can think of is that you raise the priority of the of your main thread of your application to be critical or something like that, because really what's happening behind the scenes is that Windows is hijacking more CPU time and interrupting your animation thread and everything else in your application, by the way. So there's no, it's not really, it's not a bug, it's not a anything that we can do anything about from inside of the application, really. Would the HTML5 Builder license allow for lifetime upgrades? For instance, any upgrades to provide compatibility with PhoneGap future APIs? That's only available if you get software assurance, if I'm not mistaken. Being eventually responsible for making SDK for a biometric unit coupled to a mobile, what tools are needed to make such a thing? Could HTML5 Builder use JavaScript? Would that be usable?
That depends on the SDK. Usually, SDKs provide the libraries and export the API functions they allow you to use. And then it's a matter of developing the PhoneGap plugin, which in iOS is Objective-C, and on Android is Java, that allows you to call those APIs from JavaScript. It depends on the device you are going to use, or, I mean, it depends on the native technology the device is based on, because with that SDK you are writing native code.
All right, if there's any more questions, please feel free to put them in right now. Otherwise, Sarina, Jose, is there anything else you want to add to the session?
Well, thank you very much for joining. If you have any specific questions on HTML5 Builder, you can also send me an email at sarina.dupont@embarcadero.com.
All right, so that would be Sarina and dot right here, dupont@embarcadero.com.
Right there, you see the icons for the platforms that are supported. And in our case, we support, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, BlackBerry, and also WebOS as well. And we previously mentioned the PhoneGap build service, and that is something that we have integrated into HTML5 Builder. So as you're building a mobile application using HTML5 Builder, you're presented with a wizard that steps you through the process of generating the necessary files to be able to compile the application. And for example, with iOS, you get an Xcode project. And in that wizard pane, you actually are presented with a login. And if you sign up for an account on the PhoneGap website, you can use your credentials. And then you can use the PhoneGap build service to basically package up your application in the cloud instead of installing the native SDKs on your system.
Yep. And here you also have the pricing. So you can make one private app completely for free, and if you want more, then you can start charging at $10 a month, essentially, for up to 25 private apps.
And again, that's an optional service, but it's something that you can take advantage of if you don't want to go through the process of installing the native SDKs on your machine.
Yep. Right. So again, that's build.phonegap.com, or you can go there from www.phonegap.com and see it all.
Thank you very much for joining us for the HTML5 Builder product address. And again, Anders can put up my email address if you have any additional questions or feedback.
Sounds good.